Hello, Toasty.
Are you familiar with the third positionist ideological platform?
Yep. So the way I understand third positionism is they are in favor of some degree of economic egalitarianism, however, not for everybody, right? Depending on certain characteristics about oneself, you may be considered as more, I guess, like apt for society than other groups, and therefore you might incur different like levels of, I suppose, yeah, of economic freedom or economic autonomy depending on those characteristics. So if we talk about
Yeah, there's a
nationalism,
lot
for
more than
example, as a
that.
principle, why do you like nationalism? Why do you think nationalism is a good thing?
And I think generally people have this sort of cultural identity that is unique to them. And I think there's certain parts of capitalism, there's certain aspects of the modern day liberalism which seeks to kind of destroy that. And in my opinion, like I don't know, like a lot of the stuff that's being pushed, right? This like sort of what they call multiculturalism, where it's just one big world culture, where
Hmm.
it's like that. I don't know. That seems like it's like they want to wipe away cultures. They want to wipe away certain like aspects that are important to history.
So how does that relate to nationalism in your view?
Is that capitalism has turned into imperialism, and imperialism is it's very globalist. It's very well, I wouldn't say internationalist, but it's very globalist. Those things they
I
generally have a
think you're
nationalist base.
conflating anti-globalism with anti-imperialism.
Well, they both have a like they're both tied together. Right now, the
No, I don't
point
think
that I'm
they're both
making is
tied together. I believe there are ways in which our current
yeah.
capitalist like
Well,
general paradigm utilizes globalism in an imperialistic fashion. However, I don't believe that globalism inherently is imperialistic or that globalism
I think
inherently
that sort
has
of
to
thing
leave
just
nations
comes down
behind
to
or hurt them.
semantics. But like the
No,
point that I was making,
this is fairly important to the discussion.
well,
So, for
the
example,
point
in
that
a
I was
world
making
where
was
we have like for example, a properly functioning like geopolitical system of, for example, like local trade unions or whatever that hold a similar degree of power when it comes to the amount of weight they hold in regards to like trade deals or like importance on the international market, then economic globalism would be 100% phenomenal. It wouldn't lead to any form of exploitation. It
well, I
would
mean,
lead to
okay,
like an
as
efficient, like making the general markets of the world efficient
yeah,
and like production lines more efficient, lower consumer prices, higher economic revenue, which can be invested into social programs to make up for the people left behind by economic globalization. Then, if you agree with what I said, how you wouldn't be against like globalization, how you're against imperialism,
well,
then
it,
I wouldn't say you should characterize yourself as a nationalist as much as should characterize yourself as just like an anti-imperialist.
sure,
Okay, so economic nationalism is not as much nationalism as just as anti-imperialism. Okay, cultural nationalism. So how would you enforce cultural like nationalism? How
I
would
mean,
you
I don't
ensure
think
that?
it's something to enforce. Because I think a bigger part of this is immigration, right? And I view immigration less of like a problem and more of a symptom of capitalism.
Mhm.
Because like, would you agree with me that the idea that like someone has to immigrate from like the third world to America
Yep, I think that's a
in
bad
order
thing.
to live a better life, like there's a level of racism to that. I just generally think that like countries need some sort of a border security just to like check people and stuff. Like
I mean, I agree. Like open borders does not mean like no security, no checks. In an open border
yeah,
society, it doesn't mean
that
people
means
just
like
like come and
enforcing
go as they
borders and
wish,
stuff.
but it means that they all have like a good. I think it's like formative right to like both be able to like immigrate and immigrate easily in a documented fashion. In which case, like the nation state has like
Yeah,
knowledge
yeah,
over who's
and
in
I
their
think and I
country and
think
stuff like that.
immigration should be easier for people that want to immigrate here.
Mhm. I think we both agree that illegal immigration is something that should be minimized in society. However, the way by which you minimize this is not by cracking down on illegal immigration. Illegal immigration, the way to solve it is by increasing access to legal immigration, correct? I'm failing to see what makes your ideology different from like my like version of like socialism or progressivism, because we've talked about two things. We've talked about economic nationalism and like cultural nationalism, and you haven't taken any
Well,
like stance that I disagree with so far. Like
well, I mean,
once
I
we've
mean that's
gotten
the
down
thing. Like,
into
I
it,
think,
we both like agreed
well, I mean,
fundamentally. What do you think I will disagree with you on?
I think Mussolini was good. I think Mussolini did a lot of good for his country.
What about, for example, the role of like women under Mussolini's Italy?
Because didn't like women like he take away a few like bit of like women's rights and stuff?
It took
Because
away a fair bit of women's rights, yes.
but I mean, as far as the economic platform goes, I think that's like where I would agree with Mussolini on the most. His economic platform of like national syndicalism and corporatism and
Okay.
people yeah.
So you're ready to renounce Mussolini's social agenda?
I mean, to a certain like extent, like there's like certain like I don't know too much about his like specific social
Hmm.
agenda. Like I focus a lot more on like his economic policies, just because I think that they're pretty good economic policies.
I mean, they still lack like things like fundamentally what's it called, like things like worker democracy, for example, which I as a leftist
Well, no,
like value.
I mean, Mussolini actually had a. So what he had was these like syndicates, right, where workers would like grouped in and they'd like elect like a representative, and then the same thing would happen with employers, and these syndicates would partake in like various like economic policy measures.
But if I don't remember incorrectly, there was like a lot of what's it called, when it came to like the diplomatic or the ability for you to have like influence within these meetings, it was heavily weighed in favor of like appointed state representatives in these matters.
Like workers supported Mussolini.
Yeah, I mean, but they can support Mussolini for a whole wide range of reasons, right? It doesn't mean that they supported him just because his actual like economic or like democratization was good and it gave them personal autonomy. They could have supported them because a lot of them were just like fucking didn't like women, for example. I don't know. It seems like similar to like, I guess, like Mao's economic policy in the sense where a lot of like sort of like lefty economic like terminology was appropriated to describe a lot of the things they were talking about. Like, for example, like syndicates in Mao's China was cooperatives. But when it really came down to how they actually structured and how the power dynamics worked, it seemed almost like, like uniformly that in a lot of these cases, even though there were like some degree of like symbolic representation, at the end of the day, like a vast majority of the power in most decisions ended up coming down to the state.
I mean, I think as far as state ownership goes, like state ownership has been like very efficient, and it has like raised like living standards of various countries.
Yeah, but there was also like
policy.
massive like mixed success, like when we came to like the collectivization of industries there, especially when it came to the USSR. There was a very 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 mixed bag with like massive lows as well when it came to the state's ability to stepping in. But I'm in favor of nationalizing certain industries 100%. But when it came to like general industry and like general commercial then no, that should, the state shouldn't have anything to do with that.
I'm not in favor of nationalizing like everything.
Yeah, and obviously, even the ones that are nationalized, which are going to be fewer in my system than under yours probably, there would be much more representation of, like, for example, just worker-run unions when it came to the negotiations, rather than in Mussolini's Italy where you had like state-controlled unions case that go to like courts where appointed state actors have like a disproportionate amount of power compared to workers and stuff like that.
I don't know, like that just seems like more like, I guess, democracy for the sake of democracy. I think like what Mussolini did in his system, like it worked, and it worked pretty well. Like again, like it.
Well, no, not really. I mean, there were like certain like pretty massive economic endeavors similar to that of, for example, the Great Leap Forward of Mao, such as, for example, the Battle of the Lira here, and some other things that were like complete failures and that like led to like food shortages, among other things. It's funny that you talk about like being so anti-imperialist either, and then you say like you endorse like fascist Italy, for example. Fascist Italy was aggressively like imperialist and had like such like an insane amount of wartime effort that in a lot of cases is comparable to Nazi Germany.
And as far as that goes, I mean, like I don't think you can like blame that solely on Mussolini. Every country at that point like had like a large degree of imperialism.
I'm waiting for the difference here because we've been talking for I don't know how long, and you've said that you're trying to convince me of this third positionism thing, but all you ever want to like talk about, all you ever want to claim are things that we agree on, or sometimes would be even better under my system.
I don't know if there's anything that like I guess we specifically like disagree
on.
So
why aren't you just a standard progressive socialist then? And I'm going to say this one more time, okay? Because here's what I think is happening right now. This is why I think that you're presenting to me an ideology that is fundamentally different in a lot of ways to the beliefs I hold. However, you don't want to talk about those fundamental differences. You want to talk mostly about the things you agree on in an attempt to legitimize your ideology. And that's the issue. Because right now, unless you've given me any difference, you are not convincing anybody. You are not making any case for it. All you're telling me is that there are elements to your ideology that you are either too cowardly or you're unprepared to discuss and like debate.
There's one thing, and we can't talk about that because if we talk about that, we may get banned off of the platform.
Could you give me some like indication of like what it might be, like a hint or something?
The you-know-whos.
Oh, you're an anti-Semite. Okay. See, why did it take us so long to just end up with you having conspiracy theories? This is the issue that I ran into. This is why I wanted to talk about the disagreements from the get-go.
If a group makes up 1 to 2% of the like population, but they make up like, for example, 48% of the like presidential cabinet, 98% of like the like corporation like the media representation, 25% of the super wealthy, like would you not say that there's like some sort of a problem there? Like
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a problem. So for example, if let's say that what's like a group that there's like let's say there's like a tiny let's say there's like a tiny village of of like people that like live in fucking, I don't know, like Antarctica or some shit, okay? And they're like hella wealthy. I don't know. They fucking they find like diamonds in the fucking like Antarctica in the ice, okay? And they sell a shit ton of it, and then they come here. They're a massive minority, but because they come here and they're like relatively wealthy, let's say they're well educated, for example, they're gonna be, as a portion of their population, massively overrepresented in the amount of power they have. I see that.
Well,
I recognize that state of affairs. What's
okay.
what's your policy?
They're
What's the significance of this?
but if you generally look at the things that they advocate for, all of them push the same sort of narrative of like open borders and like there's this like global like
Is there
multiculturalism
something wrong
and
with that?
pro-Israel. Well, I think there is a lot of stuff wrong with that. Like I said, like this idea of like this global capitalism, the destruction of cultures and stuff. It's like one
I mean,
culture,
there are quite a few Jews
like
that are like socialists, right? As well. What you're trying to
hey,
propose is that they are like they're actively conspiring and working together to promote a specific narrative for some undefined purpose, which some incentive, which I
well,
fail
no,
to
because
understand that you fail to
they're the
present.
capitalists. They are the capitalists. They're doing this because it benefits capital. It's like
So
the
why are you
stock
talking about
number line.
why are you directing this at Jewish people and not just capitalists then?
There's like I said, it's one of those things where there's no good policy without seeming like overwhelmingly like
Okay, so basically you're in favor of genocide to some extent.
no. I said it backfired on him. I'm not like I
But
said
you said he was
I
a
already
cool
said that.
guy.
Okay, that was like memeing. All right, don't
Okay.
like because
Then you're giving me no reason to focus on Jewish people. All you're telling me is that we should focus on those privileges, on the privilege of being a capitalist, of
focusing on
passing this away.
capitalism and stuff, and like another thing is like like if you look at like for example the Wall Street like hedge fund bets and stuff, like if you call them out, they use like anti-Semitism as like a shield, like right,
I
like
mean, that's
you're
because
like oh
people
we
like
should
you
do.
exist, right? Because like you're just you're always like calling out the fact that they're Jewish, they're Jewish, but
Well, no,
you're
I
telling
mean,
me
even if you
nothing.
do
It
like,
means nothing
because
to me. Well, then you just have to explain that you're not anti-Semitic, which is I can do this super easily. I can critique as many capitalists as I fucking want. And if someone says that I'm anti-Semitic, I can very clearly says no. This has literally nothing to do with their
yeah, but
ethnicity. This has to
if
do
you
with
try and
the
do that, look, if you try and do that, like like if you actually go into politics and try and do that and stuff, you're probably gonna get shot in the back of the head, or you're probably like they're probably gonna make something up
I'm gonna
about you.
need a
Like,
fat
look,
citation on that one, buddy. Holy shit. If you like try to like step back for a minute and just like kind of like have an overview of like this conversation you've had with me, okay? What reasons have you given me to care about this? What have you provided me that
well,
strides like that doesn't just make me think that you're a crazy conspiracy theorist?
like as far as that goes, like I don't know, I feel like that's like a really big like sort of like straw man of the whole thing, and
I have nothing
I
to
don't know too
straw
much
man.
about
There
that.
is no argument to straw man. You're not giving me anything. You're just making descriptive claims. I'm one final question on this, okay?
Sure.
Is just what's your solution?
Again, like I don't know if they're like
I just want to
just
say
don't
it's
know
a
of any
simple
good solution.
question.
I think what we need to do now, like I think at this point what we need to do now is make more awareness of this and get rid of this stigma of like anti-Semitism for like criticizing capitalism or for criticizing like the system, because that is something that happens. Like
Okay.
yeah,
So according to you, the solution to the Jewish
destigmatizing.
question is just telling people not to use anti-Semitism when it's not applicable. One final meme before we move on. What ethnicity
Sure.
do you think I am?
I mean, like I don't know. I don't really care. Like, are you Jewish? Are you?
That's a phenomenal question. People are still asking it to this day. Yeah, I thought it was extremely frustrating and extremely slimy, but there were some good memes.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, bye bye. Jesus fucking Christ.